welcome back to Sound Bites. In today's episode, we're talking to Gina Haverstock. Gina is a local winemaker who won a pretty big award recently. So, welcome, Gina.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
So, you won something called the Karl Kaiser Canadian Winemaker Award. And Karl Kaiser was a pretty significant person in the Canadian wine industry. Tell us a little bit about just first the honor of winning that award.
That was a huge honor, Mark. First of all, I was shocked when I heard of it, but to think about Karl Kaiser and the impact he's made on the Canadian wine industry, and to think that I received an award that has his name attached to it, it's pretty amazing. And not to mention that it's a national award, so it's a recognition for winemaking, and I get put in a bucket with the likes of Paul Pender and J.L. Grew and Howard Soon. I guess I'm extremely honored and humbled.
And for those that don't know, so Gina is the head winemaker of the Devonian Coast, and when under that portfolio you have wineries like Mercator, Gaspereau, and Yost. So you've been doing this for a while now. Tell us a little bit about your journey, because you are a Nova Scotian. You went away to train a bit, came back. So tell us a little bit about the journey just of becoming a winemaker.
I guess it started with not thinking I wanted to become a winemaker. I started out with the intention of going to med school. So in order to do that at that day and age, in the early 2000s, I needed to write an entrance exam into med school. I thought that the best place to do that during the summer, to study for the MCATs, was at our summer cottage, which happens to be on the North Shore of Nova Scotia. And it's right in the backyard of Yost Vineyards. Now, I knew nothing about wine basically at that time. And when I took that job, it turned into a full-time summer job. And basically, Hans Christian Yost, the owner at the time, would always sit down with the returning staff and new staff and walk through all the wines. And that's where I first had my first experience with wine and understanding that there were such things as different grape varieties and they tasted differently, and also how you grow it and how you ferment it can change completely how it tastes. So that was the first I guess dip into winemaking for me.
Amazing. And so now you've been 15 plus years or so making wine in Nova Scotia?
Yeah, so I took a job at Gaspereau Vineyards in 2006. Yeah, so we're getting up there.
I don't know how you've escaped the gray hair like me, but anyway, good on you. So in a way too, then you're representing Nova Scotia by this award because you're the first Nova Scotian to win this title, the first person outside of BC and Ontario.
That's right. I think that's the biggest honor, and I'm really happy that it allows me to highlight, put me aside, let's highlight the Nova Scotia industry, because it has taken, a couple of years of this award coming out, and it's always highlighted Ontario and British Columbia. Now we get to highlight Nova Scotia. It's a big deal.
Yeah. So when we talk about Nova Scotia wines and what you I think sometimes winemakers have a persona or a personality. I think of you as very, this kind of aromatic style, really focus on but fresh and clean. And how do you envision your own personality that you try to infuse in your wines?
Yeah, I think I guess going back to Gaspereau Vineyards, the place where I took my first winemaking job, and thinking back actually about where I was trained. So I went to Brock University, and then I did some apprenticeships in Germany, in the Rheingau, and in Austria, and in Burgundy. So really focused on cool climate. So when I first was employed at Gaspereau as winemaker, I think that's a style I really align with, I was trained in, and I really enjoy myself. And not to mention that it fits perfectly in with the Nova Scotia terroir. So I think that style was always me. Now, Gaspereau, I don't only make wine for Gaspereau, as you said. Now I make it for Mercator and Yost. And I think, I think you can, each winery, each brand has a different style, as we know from tasting wines all around the world. You can taste two different wines, two wines that are made from two different wineries in, say, Burgundy, and they can taste of a style of that winery. So I feel that Yost, Gaspereau, and Mercator also have that style. I guess I align, like you said, with that aromatic and fruit forward and clean style. But then, we can flip to Mercator and talk about, the complexity and the use of oak in whites and malolactic, and kind of giving a different style for Mercator, more elegant in style. And then Yost, which, it has to hit a lot of different taste buds and a different a really approachable style, if that helps. So I think I align first with that aromatic and clean style, but I think every winery speaks, and every brand speaks for itself, and I'm happy to make wines in those styles as well.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think obviously, just as a consumer, I think you're right on in terms of, obviously, you're right on, you make them. But that Gas Pro has its distinctive style. Mercator, that you said, you get to do more lees and wood treatments, but it still has your cleanliness associated and your kind of scientist input, I think, in there. And then Yo's maybe a little more approachable. Um, There's one other great honor associated with you winning the Karl Kaiser Award this year, is that you're the first woman to win the award too. And I think of some great people in the Canadian wine industry like Anne Sperling, Emma Gardner, Alison Finley. Even another Nova Scotian or someone that lived here in Nova Scotia, Alison Moyes, that when eventually took our sommelier program, went out to BC, become a winemaker. Um, that must be gratifying as well, to be the first woman in Canada to achieve this award, with so many great women making wine in this country.
Yeah, I think yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Anne Sperling, who's been in the industry longer than I have, and has worked in different regions, BC, Ontario, not to mention her out of Canada work. But I guess all I can say is I'm just happy that the females, wherever they're from, are getting highlighted. And I think, if Anne were to receive the award, if Emma was to receive the award, who I went to school with, by the way, I think it just shows that we're representing, and surprised and shocked that this award came through to me. But yeah, I'm happy to carry the flame, and the whole point of having highlighting that it's the first time a female has won this award is about encouraging females to think that they can become winemakers, they can become viticulturalists, they can own wineries, and I think that's the main point here with being the first female winemaker receiving the award.
Yeah, and hopefully, realistically, you won't be the last, and there will be many more after you that win it. Because I think one of the nice things that I've seen, and I hope that you've seen in the last 17 years that you've been working here, is the amount of women now that are I mean, working in the wineries of Nova Scotia and making wine, and you work with many. There's a lot around. I think the nice statement is that I think in the future it really won't matter. It'll be whoever on the day, because we have such a rich contingent of women in wine in Nova Scotia, but throughout Canada. I'm gonna put you on the spot to figure. So, what's your favorite wine from each of the three wineries you produce currently?
Okay, you did not put me on the spot, but I guess it's just harder to choose. Mark, which one of your three children do you love the most?
Oh, I can't say on
Oh,
camera. Just kidding.
I get you. I'm just teasing, but okay. So if backed into a corner, I don't think my favorite Gaspereau wine will come as a surprise to you. I love working with Riesling. I trained in the Rheingau. So when I came back to Nova Scotia and took the job in 2006 at Gaspereau Vineyards, and there was Riesling planted and cropping at that time, I was super excited to work with Riesling. I still am excited to work with Riesling. Now it's not just this small acreage that we have at Gaspereau, but we have several growers within the Annapolis Valley and in northern Nova Scotia growing it. So Riesling is the answer. I love how it just is so terroir driven. It just sort of sucks all the flavor from where it's grown into the grapes, and then it's so easy to showcase in the wine. I love to drink them. I like them dry. I like them sweet, and I love the aromatics. So Riesling it is for Gaspereau Vineyards. For Yost Vineyards, I think I would have to say the Yost Tidal Bay. It's one of the it's the largest volume of Tidal Bay that's produced in the province, and as a winemaker, I think most winemakers would say that they love blending. That's really where, once you have fermented things separately, where the rubber hits the road, or where those final touches to make a wine really speak the way you want it to speak comes in the blending. So Nova Scotia's signature grape, L'Acadie Blanc, is a larger component of the Yost Tidal Bay. We've got a couple other varieties like Osceola Muscat, Cayuga, and Geisenheim 318, filling in kind of the rest of that with a little bit of New York Muscat in there. And Tidal Bay has to speak of Tidal Bay. It has to speak of Nova Scotia clearly. And Yost Tidal Bay, I feel, has a really, it's really approachable. It isn't too aromatic within the Tidal Bay standards, of course. It isn't too aromatic. It isn't too lean. It just hits at that middle section. And I think that I think that's why I like making that one so much. And last but not least, Mercator. I have to say that making the Compass Rosé from Mercator is really it is one of my favorite wines, and it's also wonderful to make. For that rosé, it's a blend of rosés that can come from Leon Malo often. And we have some whites in there to kind of balance out the deep color that we tend to get from our rosés here in Nova Scotia, made from things like Leon Malo. And then our little special twist at Mercator, as you mentioned earlier, with the Mercator style, it has more lees and more wood and oak contact. We actually do barrel ferment and malolactic ferment some of the wines that a small component of the wines that go into that rosé. So you get this nice creaminess, this weightiness on the palate without having to give too much sweetness, and the aromatics are really elegant. So those are the three. So Compass Rosé Mercator, Yost Tidal Bay Yost, and the Gaspereau Riesling.
Amazing. So go out, look for those wines, and congratulations again, Gina.
Thank you.